morning everyone. Recently we had completed our geography portion. After completion of geography, we are coming to the another portion of your examination, which is named as disaster management. Studying this topic is important in two aspects. One aspect is you want to clear the examination, and obviously questions are getting asked out of this topic of disaster management. Not in much amount. They used to ask question on disaster management in mains examination only. And in combination with the geography questions. The questions of disaster management comes in combination with the geography questions and used to get asked in mains examination, not in prelims examination. Second pillar, one important pillar is to clear your examination. Second pillar is when you will become IAS, you will become district collector or district magistrate, then it is the responsibility of a district magistrate to manage all kind of disaster in their district. He is the first person on the ground who is going to respond whenever there is any disastrous situation. Whenever there is any disaster situation, district magistrate, district collector is the first person who is going to respond over it. That's why it is necessary that you must be aware about the management of disaster in India. What really we call a disaster? What can be the consequences of disaster? And whenever any disaster comes, then how should we respond? How we should respond? This must be in our knowledge. This is required to be in our knowledge. What is my rights? What is my duties during any disaster? Like coronavirus, COVID-19. Is also a condition of disaster. COVID-19 is also a condition of disaster, right or not? And if it is a condition of disaster, then how we should respond? How we should respond, it is very important. And not only with the aspect of administration, it is the responsibility of each and every individual for responding towards any disaster, because it is going to affect the individual. And with the participation of individual itself, disaster can be manageable. Otherwise, we can't manage the disaster. If we will leave the things on the front of the government, that it is the moral responsibility of the government to manage disaster, and common people shouldn't participate in them, then it is not possible to manage disaster. That's why every individual who is a common man or an administrator, they have certain responsibilities. We are having certain model which is required to be followed during disaster. We are having certain authorities which are required to get involved during disaster. So what is written over here is disaster by Management by Kapil Bhardwaj. I am not going to manage the disaster, but I will let you know how to manage the disaster. I am going to teach you. Okay? I am going to teach you how to manage the disaster. But yes, one or two questions in mains examination used to come from disaster management. For framing those questions, it is necessary to complete this topic. So let's start the topic now. First question is, what is disaster? If we are going to study disaster management, then first and the foremost question which came in our mind is, bhai, hota kya hai disaster? What do you mean by disaster? When we will become aware that this is the thing which is known as disaster, then only we can manage it. Yes or no? Then only we can manage it. So, the word disaster is originated from a French word, disaster. Disaster. Disaster is a combination of two words, that is des and ester. It is a combination of two words, des and ester, making disaster. Des word means bad, something which is not good. Des means bad experience. Des means something which is bad. And ester means star. Ester means star. A bad star. What does it mean? A condition which is very bad, but it is grooming, increasing, shining, growing. It is named as disaster. The condition which is not good, it is bad, but it is uplifting itself, grooming. That's why it is named as disaster. So in total, if I want to define disaster, listen to me, we will discuss some groceries of geography, under which we will discuss certain terminology. For example, physiography, lithosphere, atmosphere. We will discuss certain lot of definition over there. But what I want is, and what is the purpose of discussing these all things? Like, I am giving you a definition of disaster. Listen, you are aware, when you are listening the word disaster, you are aware that what is disaster. But it becomes complicated when you start writing and defining disaster. If I will say now to you that define disaster, then it will become complicated to you to put them in a formalized word. To put them in a formalized word become complicated. But while doing answer writing, it is necessary to have a knowledge about the formalized word. Then only you can perform better in your mains examination. That's why we must have definition for certain key words of your syllabus. So I will request you all, not related to geography, but related to everything. In economics, when you will study economics, repo rate, reverse repo rate, something of that kind. So whenever any terminology which is coming in between in the form of your syllabus, you must have a definition, a solid definition of that particular word. So that when question came over that, then you can finally answer that question. Right or not? Let's see. So disaster can easily be defined as a serious disruption in the functioning of a community or a society. What it is? It is a serious disruption. What kind of disruption? In the functioning of a community or a society, causing widespread material, economical, social, environmental losses. What it will cause? Economical, social and environmental loss it will cause. which automatically exceed the ability of affected society to cope up using its own resources. Getting it or not? What it will do? It will create a disruption in the normal life of a people. What disaster means? Disaster simply means it will create disruption in the normal life of a people. And automatically, if they are getting affected by it, their normal life is getting hampered by disaster, then they will be building capability to maintain everything with the resources whichever is left behind. Right or not? That is named as disaster. क्योंकि इसमें प्री डिजास्टर और पोस्ट डिजास्टर दोनों चीजें होती है. डिजास्टर में क्या होगा? प्री डिजास्टर चीजें भी होती हैं और पोस्ट डिजास्टर भी होती है, और आई विल से ड्यूरिंग डिजास्टर भी होता है. ठीक है, तीन कंडीशन होती हैं: प्री डिजास्टर, ड्यूरिंग डिजास्टर एंड पोस्ट डिजास्टर. तो ये जो मैं कह रहा हूं, डिसरप्शन इन द फंक्शनिंग, वेदर वो सोसाइटिकल कॉज हो, आपका मटेरियलिस्टिक हो, इकोनॉमिकल हो, सोशल हो, एनवायरमेंटल हो, ये सारे लॉस होंगे. ये क्या है? प्री प्लस ड्यूरिंग. अब उसके बाद में विच एक्सीड द एबिलिटी. अब क्या है? ये क्या आ गया? ये पोस्ट डिजास्टर आ गया. ये एबिलिटी एक्सीड करेगा सोसाइटी की टू कॉप ऑफ यूजिंग इट्स ऑन रिसोर्सेज. ठीक है, इट इज नेम्ड एज डिजास्टर. ठीक है, इट विल बी नेम्ड एज डिजास्टर. अब वो डिजास्टर किसी भी टाइप की हो सकती है, राइट और नॉट? वो जो डिजास्टर है वो किसी भी टाइप की हो सकती है. अर्थक्वेक हो सकता है, वोल्केनिज्म हो सकता है, फायर हो सकती है, आपका फ्लड हो सकती है, आपकी ड्रॉट की कंडीशन हो सकती है. बट इन ऑल दीज सर्कमस्टांसेस, नॉर्मल लाइफ ऑफ ह्यूमन बीइंग इज गेटिंग हैम्पर्ड एंड गेटिंग एम्पावर्ड टू कॉप अप देमसेल्फ विद व्हाट द रिसोर्सेज व्हिच आर लेफ्ट बिहाइंड. राइट और नॉट? अब देखो, डिफरेंट कंट्रीज जो हैं वो डिफरेंट वल्नरेबिलिटी ऑफ डिजास्टर के अंदर. Different countries are differently vulnerable towards disaster. So let's talk about the top 10 populations in different countries facing acute exposure to the disaster. So top 10 में आपको जान के हैरानी होगी कि सबसे ज्यादा पॉपुलेशन इंडिया की है. इंडिया की 82% पॉपुलेशन जो है इट इज एक्सपोज्ड टुवर्ड्स डिजास्टर. फर्स्ट नंबर इज ऑफ इंडिया. और 82% पॉपुलेशन इज एक्सपोज्ड टुवर्ड्स डिजास्टर. वो डिफरेंट काइंड हो सकता है. साइक्लोन हो सकता है, अर्थक्वेक हो सकता है, वोल्केनिज्म हो सकता है, ड्रॉट हो सकता है, फॉरेस्ट फायर हो सकता है, न्यूक्लियर ब्लास्ट हो सकता है. ठीक है ना? तो कोई भी हो सकता है, नेचुरल भी हो सकता है, मैन मेड डिजास्टर भी हो सकता है. लेकिन 82% पॉपुलेशन ऑफ इंडिया इज एक्सपोज्ड टुवर्ड्स डिजास्टर. कैसे? हाउ such a huge amount of population is exposed? It is quite simple. India is having a very diverse topography. Like Himalayas are there in India, plains are there in India, coastal area is there in India. So those states which are nearby to the Himalayas, northern states, काफी सारे states हैं, जम्मू कश्मीर, उत्तराखंड, सिक्किम, अरुणाचल प्रदेश, आसाम, मिजोरम, त्रिपुरा, Meghalaya. These are either having extended form of Himalayas, but yes, they are nearby to the Himalayas. Punjab.